Elena Torres stood at the bottom of the wide marble steps. Above her, the Riverside Hotel glowed with golden lights. She could hear music floating through the air and see people in beautiful clothes walking through the tall glass doors. Her heart beat fast in her chest. She looked down at the printed paper in her hand. The invitation was real. She had checked it 10 times already. She took a deep breath and started climbing the steps. Her black dress was simple and old, but it was clean and pressed. She had borrowed shoes from her neighbor because her own were too worn. The heels felt strange on her feet. She was not used to wearing such things. At the top of the steps, a large man in a dark uniform stood by the door. His name tag said Derek. He had thick arms crossed over his chest and a frown on his face. 2 other guards stood nearby, talking and laughing with each other. Elena walked up to him with a small smile. She held out her invitation. "Good evening. I am here for the charity gala." Derek looked down at her. His eyes moved from her face to her dress to her shoes. He did not smile back. He took the paper from her hand and barely looked at it. Then he laughed. It was not a kind laugh. "This is fake," he said loudly. He held the invitation up in the air like it was garbage. Elena felt her face get hot. "No, sir, it is real. I received it in the mail 2 weeks ago. See, there is my name printed right there." Derek shook his head. "Lady, I have seen many fake invitations. This is clearly one of them. Nice try, but you need to leave now." "But I was invited," Elena said. Her voice shook a little. "Please just check the guest list. My name is Elena Torres." One of the other guards walked over. He looked at Elena and grinned. "What is going on here, Derek?" "Another fake invitation," Derek said. He waved the paper. "Can you believe people still try this?" The second guard laughed. "Some people have no shame. Looking at that dress, I am not surprised she tried to sneak in." Elena felt tears start to form in her eyes, but she blinked them back. "Please, this is a mistake. I work at Morrison & Associates. I was invited to speak tonight." Derek rolled his eyes. "Sure you were, lady. And I am the president. Now move along before we call the real police." A group of women in sparkling dresses walked past. They slowed down to watch what was happening. One of them pulled out her phone and started recording. Elena saw the phone pointed at her face. She felt shame wash over her like cold water. "This is so sad," one woman whispered to her friend, but loud enough for Elena to hear. "Why do people embarrass themselves like this?" "I know," her friend replied. "Security should handle this faster. We should not have to see such things." More people stopped to watch. Some were taking pictures. Elena heard their whispers and saw their stares. Her hands started to shake. She looked at Derek one more time. "Please," she said quietly, "just call the event coordinator. Her name is Patricia Monroe. She will tell you I am supposed to be here." Derek stepped closer to Elena. He was very tall and she had to look up at him. "Listen carefully. I do not know how you got this fake invitation made, but you need to leave right now. If you do not go, I will have you removed. Do you understand?" Elena felt something break inside her chest. She nodded slowly. She could not speak anymore. Her throat felt too tight. "Good," Derek said. He handed the invitation back to her, but he dropped it before she could take it. The paper fell to the ground. "Have a nice evening," the other guards laughed. Derek turned his back to her and opened the door for a couple in expensive clothes. They walked in without any questions. Nobody asked to see their invitations. Elena bent down to pick up her invitation from the ground. Her hands were shaking so much she could barely hold it. When she stood up, she saw at least 20 people watching her. Some looked sorry for her. Most looked disgusted or amused. The woman who had been recording put her phone away and laughed with her friends as they walked inside. Elena turned and walked down the marble steps. She tried to walk with her head up, but halfway down she could not do it anymore. She looked at the ground and walked faster. Behind her, she heard Derek say something to the other guards. They all laughed again. The sound followed her down the street. She walked 2 blocks before her legs felt too weak. She found a wooden bench under a streetlight and sat down. The night air was cold, but she barely felt it. She looked at the invitation in her hands. It was wrinkled now from being dropped, but her name was there, printed clearly. Elena Torres, guest speaker and donor. The tears came then. She could not stop them. They ran down her cheeks and fell onto the paper, making the ink blur. She had worked so hard to get where she was. She had studied late into every night for years. She had eaten cheap food and worn old clothes so she could pay for law school. She had proved herself again and again in a world that did not expect much from a poor girl from the South Side. And tonight, she had been treated like she was nothing. Like she was garbage trying to sneak into a place where she did not belong. The worst part was that some part of her had expected it. Some small voice in her head had warned her this might happen. That voice had told her to dress better, to arrive in a nice car, to look like she belonged. But she had ignored it. She had thought her invitation would be enough. She had been wrong. Elena wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. She looked up at the dark sky. A few stars were visible between the buildings. She thought about going home. She could change into her comfortable clothes, make some tea, and forget this night ever happened. Nobody at work had to know what happened. She could make up an excuse about why she missed the gala, but then she felt her phone buzzing in her small purse. She pulled it out and saw a name on the screen. James. He was her colleague at the law firm. He was probably already at the gala, wondering where she was. Elena stared at the phone. She could ignore the call. She could let it ring and ring until it stopped. She could pretend she had never tried to go to the gala at all, but something made her answer. Maybe it was pride. Maybe it was anger. Maybe it was just that she was tired of being treated like she did not matter. Hello? Her voice came out rough and broken. Elena? Where are you? The event started 20 minutes ago. Patricia is asking about you. Are you okay? Elena closed her eyes. One more tear slid down her cheek. And then she told James everything that had happened. James did not say anything for a long moment. Elena could hear the party music in the background through the phone. She heard people talking and laughing. She heard the sound of glasses clinking together. It all seemed so far away from where she sat on the cold bench. Elena, James finally said. His voice was different now. It was hard and angry. Tell me exactly what happened. Every detail. Elena took a shaky breath and started from the beginning. She told him about climbing the marble steps. She told him about Derek and how he had looked at her clothes. She told him about the other guards laughing. She told him about the people who had watched and recorded on their phones. She told him about the invitation falling to the ground. As she talked, James stayed quiet. She could hear him breathing. When she finished, there was another long silence. Where are you right now? He asked. I am sitting on a bench. 2 blocks south of the hotel, by the coffee shop that is always closed at night. Stay exactly where you are, James said. His voice was firm. Do not move. Do you understand? James, I just want to go home. I do not want to think about this anymore. Elena, please. Trust me, just stay there for 15 minutes. Can you do that for me? Elena looked around. The street was quiet. A few cars drove past, but not many people were walking. She felt tired and sad and angry all at the same time. But James was her friend. He had always been kind to her. Okay, she said quietly. I will wait. Good, I will call you back soon. The phone went silent. Elena put it back in her purse. She wrapped her arms around herself. The night was getting colder. She wished she had brought a jacket, but she had thought she would be inside the warm hotel all evening. She looked at the people walking past. A young couple holding hands, an old man walking a small dog, a woman in running clothes jogging by. They all looked like they belonged in the world. They all looked comfortable. Elena felt like she was sitting outside of life, watching it happen to other people. 5 minutes passed, then 10. Elena was about to call James back and tell him she was going home when she saw 3 black cars driving down the street. They moved slowly like they were looking for something. The first car stopped right in front of her bench. The back door opened, a woman stepped out. She was in her 60s with gray hair pulled back in a neat style. She wore a dark blue dress that looked expensive but not showy. Elena knew her immediately. It was Judge Catherine Wells. She was one of the most respected judges in the city. She was also Elena's mentor. They had met 5 years ago at a legal conference, and Judge Wells had helped guide Elena's career ever since. Elena, Judge Wells said. She walked over to the bench. Her face was tight with anger. James just called me. He told me what those fools did to you. Elena stood up quickly. Judge Wells, I'm so sorry. You should be at the gala. You did not need to come here. Nonsense. Judge Wells put her hand on Elena's shoulder. Nobody treats my people this way, nobody. She looked Elena up and down. You look beautiful, by the way. That dress is lovely. Those idiots at the door are blind and stupid. Elena felt fresh tears coming, but these were different. These were tears of relief. Thank you for coming. Of course I came. Judge Wells turned and waved at one of the other cars. A young woman got out carrying a large black bag. This is my assistant, Sophie. She always keeps an emergency outfit in my car for last-minute court appearances or events. You and I are about the same size. Let us get you into something that will make those guards regret the day they were born. Elena shook her head. I do not want to go back there. I just want to forget this happened. Judge Wells looked at her with sharp eyes. Elena Torres, I have known you for 5 years. You are one of the smartest, toughest lawyers I have ever met. You have won cases that other people said were impossible. You have fought for people who had nobody else to fight for them. Are you really going to let some security guard with a power complex defeat you? He humiliated me in front of all those people, Elena said. Her voice broke. They recorded it on their phones. They laughed at me. I know, Judge Wells said gently, and that was wrong. So very wrong. But you have 2 choices now. You can go home and let them win. Or you can walk back into that gala with your head high and show them exactly who Elena Torres is. Elena looked down at her hands. They were still shaking a little. I do not know if I can do that. Yes, you can. Judge Wells moved closer. Listen to me. I grew up poor too. Poorer than you can imagine. When I was young, people treated me the same way that guard treated you tonight. They looked at my clothes and decided I was not good enough. They decided I did not belong in their world. And you know what I learned? Elena looked up. What? I learned that their opinion of me did not matter. What mattered was my opinion of myself. What mattered was what I knew I could do. Judge Wells smiled. You are a senior partner at one of the best law firms in this city. You are 34 years old and you have already done more than most lawyers do in their whole careers. You were invited to that gala because the organizers know who you are. They know what you have accomplished. One ignorant security guard does not change any of that. But everyone saw. Elena whispered. Everyone saw me get rejected. Then let them see you return, Judge Wells said. Let them see you walk in with your head high. Let them see that you are bigger than their small minds and cruel words. Sophie stepped forward with the garment bag. Ma'am, if I may say something? I was working at a restaurant last year when Judge Wells came in for dinner. The host was rude to her because she was dining alone. He made her wait for 30 minutes while younger customers were seated immediately. Judge Wells did not make a scene. She did not yell. She just waited calmly. Then after dinner, she spoke to the manager. She explained what happened. She was so calm and dignified that the manager was horrified. He fired the host that night. Judge Wells taught me that grace and dignity are more powerful than anger. Elena looked at Sophie, then at Judge Wells. Is that true? Judge Wells nodded. Every word. And I will tell you something else. That restaurant now trains all their staff on treating every customer with respect. One moment of grace created lasting change. Your moment tonight can do the same thing. Elena thought about this. She thought about all the times she had been underestimated. All the times people had looked at her and seen only a poor girl who did not belong. She had spent her whole life proving those people wrong. Why should tonight be any different? What did you mean by emergency outfit? Elena asked. Judge Wells smiled. Sophie, show her. Sophie unzipped the garment bag. Inside was a midnight blue evening gown. It was simple but elegant. The fabric looked soft and expensive. There were also shoes, jewelry, and a small makeup bag. I always keep this in the car, Judge Wells explained. You never know when you might need to go straight from court to an evening event. This dress has been to more fancy dinners than I can count. Elena reached out and touched the fabric. It was the most beautiful thing she had ever felt. I cannot take this. You are not taking it. You are borrowing it. Judge Wells checked her watch. We have been out here for 20 minutes. The gala will go on for 3 more hours. You are the keynote speaker, Elena. They need you. And more importantly, you need to do this. Not for them. For yourself. Elena looked at the dress, then at the hotel 2 blocks away. She could see the lights still glowing. She could imagine Derek standing at the door, probably laughing about the poor woman he had turned away. She thought about the people who had recorded her on their phones. She thought about the whispers and the stares. And then she thought about every case she had ever won, every client she had helped. Every time someone had told her she could not do something and she had done it anyway. She thought about the young girl she had been, studying by candlelight because her family could not always pay the electric bill. She thought about how far she had come. Okay, Elena said. She stood up straighter. Let us do this. Judge Wells squeezed her shoulder. That is my girl. Sophie, take her to the hotel bathroom and help her get ready. Take your time. Make her look amazing. I'm going to make a few phone calls. Sophie nodded and took Elena's arm. They walked toward the hotel together, with Judge Wells following behind. As they got closer, Elena felt her heart start to race again. But this time it was different. This time she was not afraid. This time she was ready. Sophie led Elena through a side entrance of the hotel. They avoided the main doors where Derek and the other guards stood. Instead, they went through a door marked for staff. Nobody stopped them or asked questions. Judge Wells had called ahead. They found the public restroom on the first floor. It was fancy with marble counters and gold fixtures. Soft music played from hidden speakers. The air smelled like expensive soap and fresh flowers. Sophie locked the main door so they would not be interrupted. Let us get you out of that dress first, Sophie said kindly. She helped Elena unzip the simple black dress. Elena stepped out of it and stood in her plain underwear. She felt vulnerable and small. Sophie hung the midnight blue gown carefully on a hook. Then she opened the makeup bag. Judge Wells told me to take my time. She said to make you feel like yourself again. So we will go slow, okay? Elena nodded. She looked at herself in the large mirror. Her eyes were red from crying. Her hair was messy. She looked tired and defeated. She barely recognized herself. Can I tell you something? Sophie asked as she started laying out makeup brushes in small bottles. When I first started working for Judge Wells, I was so nervous. I came from a small town. My family did not have much money. Everyone around the judge seemed so confident and educated. I felt like I did not belong. What did you do? Elena asked. Judge Wells noticed I was struggling. One day she took me to lunch and told me her story. She told me about growing up with nothing. She told me about all the times people had made her feel small. And then she said something I will never forget. What did she say? Sophie smiled as she began working on Elena's hair. She said that confidence is not about feeling like you belong everywhere. It is about knowing your own worth no matter where you are. She said that I should never let other people's judgments make me forget what I know about myself. Elena felt something shift inside her chest. That is wise. It is. And it is true. Sophie gently brushed Elena's hair. Now, let me ask you something. Before tonight, before that awful man at the door, did you feel worthy? Elena thought about this. Yes, I have worked hard. I have earned my place, exactly. And one ignorant person cannot take that away from you. He does not have that power. Only you have that power. Sophie continued brushing. The question is, are you going to give him that power? Are you going to let him make you forget who you are? No, Elena said. The word came out stronger than she expected. No, I am not. Good. Sophie smiled at her in the mirror. Now let us remind you of who Elena Torres really is. For the next 30 minutes, Sophie worked carefully. She washed Elena's face gently, removing the streaks of old makeup and tears. She applied new makeup with a light touch. Nothing too heavy. Just enough to make Elena's features stand out. She made Elena's eyes look bright and strong. She added a soft pink to her lips. Then Sophie worked on Elena's hair. She brushed it until it shined. She pulled it back in a simple but elegant style, with a few soft pieces framing Elena's face. She made it look effortless and natural. There, Sophie said, stepping back. Look at yourself. Elena looked in the mirror. She looked different, but not fake. She looked like a better version of herself. She looked like someone who belonged anywhere she chose to be. Now for the dress, Sophie said. She carefully took the midnight blue gown off the hook. The fabric caught the light and seemed to glow. Sophie helped Elena step into it. The dress fit perfectly. It hugged Elena's body in all the right places. It made her look tall and graceful. It made her look powerful. Sophie zipped up the back. Shoes next. The shoes were simple black heels, much nicer than the ones Elena had borrowed from her neighbor. They were comfortable and made her stand straighter. Sophie added a silver necklace and matching earrings. Nothing too flashy, just elegant. Okay, Sophie said. Turn around and look. Elena turned to face the large mirror. For a moment she could not speak. The woman looking back at her was stunning. But more than that, she looked confident. She looked like she knew her worth. She looked like someone who could walk into any room and belong there. Is that really me? Elena whispered. That has always been you, Sophie said. The dress and makeup just help other people see what was already there. Elena turned slowly, watching the dress move. She felt different. Not because of the clothes, but because of something inside her. The shame and humiliation from earlier were still there, but they felt smaller now. They felt like something she could carry without being crushed by it. "I need to tell you something," Elena said. She turned to Sophie. "When that guard rejected me, a part of me believed him. A part of me thought maybe I really did not belong there. Maybe I really was just a poor girl trying to be something I was not." Sophie listened quietly. "But that is not true," Elena continued. Her voice grew stronger. "I do belong there. Not because of this dress or this makeup. I belong there because I was invited. Because I have done the work. Because I have earned my place. That guard was wrong. All those people who laughed were wrong. And I was wrong to let them make me doubt myself." "Yes," Sophie said, smiling. "Yes, exactly." There was a knock on the bathroom door. "Elena, Sophie? Are you ready?" It was Judge Wells. Sophie unlocked the door. Judge Wells walked in and stopped. She looked at Elena and her eyes went soft. "Oh, my dear girl, you look absolutely perfect." Elena felt tears starting again, but she blinked them back. "Thank you. For everything. For coming to get me. For believing in me. I will always believe in you." Judge Wells walked over and took both of Elena's hands. "Now I need to tell you what I learned while you were getting ready." "I made some calls. I spoke to Patricia Monroe, the event coordinator. She is horrified about what happened. She had no idea. She has been looking for you everywhere." "What did you tell her?" "I told her you were delayed, but that you would be arriving shortly." "I did not tell her about the security guards." "Not yet." Judge Wells looked serious. "That is your story to tell, Elena. You can share it or not share it. That is your choice. But I want you to know that you have options." "What kind of options?" "You could go in there and give your speech and leave. You could pretend tonight never happened. Or you could use this moment to create change. You could make sure this never happens to anyone else." Judge Wells paused. "But that is entirely up to you. No one will judge you either way." Elena thought about this. She thought about all the other people who might be treated the way she was treated. She thought about young lawyers, young women, young people from poor backgrounds who might come to events like this and face the same humiliation. She thought about Derek and the other guards and how they probably did this all the time. "I want to create change," Elena said, "but I do not want to do it with anger. I want to do it the way you taught me. With grace and dignity." Judge Wells smiled. "Then that is what we will do. But first you need to walk back into that gala. You need to hold your head high. You need to show everyone in that room exactly who Elena Torres is. Can you do that?" Elena looked at herself one more time in the mirror. She saw the scared woman from an hour ago, but she also saw the strong woman she had become. She saw all the years of hard work and sacrifice. She saw all the battles she had won. She saw everything she had overcome to get to this moment. "Yes," Elena said, "I can do that." Sophie handed her a small silver purse. "This matches the dress. I put your phone and keys inside. Thank you, Sophie. For everything you said. For helping me remember." Sophie hugged her. "Go show them who you are." Judge Wells opened the bathroom door. "The gala is on the 3rd floor. We will take the main staircase. Everyone will see you arrive. Is that okay?" Elena took a deep breath. Her heart was beating fast again, but this time it was not from fear. It was from anticipation, from determination, from power. "That is perfect," Elena said. They walked out of the bathroom together. Judge Wells on one side, Sophie on the other. They crossed the hotel lobby. A few people turned to look at them. Elena kept her head high. She kept her shoulders back. She kept walking. They reached the main staircase. It was wide and covered in red carpet. At the top, Elena could see the doors to the ballroom. She could hear the music and voices. She could see the golden light spilling out. "Ready?" Judge Wells asked. Elena looked up at those doors. Somewhere beyond them was Derek. Somewhere beyond them were the people who had laughed at her. Somewhere beyond them was the woman who had recorded her humiliation on a phone. But also beyond those doors was her future. Her chance to speak. Her chance to show everyone who she really was. "I am ready," Elena said, and she began to climb. Elena walked up the red carpet stairs. Each step felt important. Judge Wells walked on her right side. Sophie had gone ahead to find James and let him know they were coming. The staircase seemed longer than it had before, but Elena did not mind. She used the time to breathe deeply and center herself. When she reached the top of the stairs, she saw the entrance to the ballroom ahead. But first she had to pass through the main hotel entrance where she had been turned away. Her stomach tightened. Derek would be there. The other guards would be there. This was the moment she had been dreading. "You do not have to go this way," Judge Wells said quietly. "There is another entrance through the West Hall." Elena shook her head. "No, I want to go through the front. I need to." Judge Wells nodded. "Then I will be right beside you." They walked toward the glass doors. Elena could see them now. Derek stood in the same spot, his thick arms crossed. The other two guards were there too, laughing about something. A few well-dressed couples were arriving, and Derek was opening the door for them with a smile. Such a different smile than the one he had given Elena. As Elena and Judge Wells approached, Derek did not look at them at first. He was busy talking to the other guards. But then one of the guards noticed the two women walking up. He nudged Derek and pointed. Derek turned. His eyes moved over Elena. She saw him take in the midnight blue dress, the elegant hairstyle, the confident way she walked. His face went from bored to attentive. He immediately stepped forward and reached for the door handle. "Good evening, ladies," Derek said. His voice was warm and polite, completely different from before. "Welcome to the charity gala." He did not recognize her. Elena felt a strange mix of emotions. Part of her wanted to laugh at the irony. Part of her wanted to scream. But mostly she felt a cold, calm power settle over her. She stopped walking. She stood directly in front of Derek and looked him in the eyes. He was tall, but in her heels, she did not have to look up as far. She kept her face neutral. She did not smile. She did not frown. She just looked at him. "Interesting how much difference 45 minutes makes," Elena said. Her voice was quiet but clear. Derek's smile faltered. He stared at her face, really looking at her for the first time. His eyes widened. The color drained from his face. You what?" Elena asked. She kept her voice level. She was not yelling. She was not being dramatic. She was simply asking a question. "I did not. You look..." Derek stumbled over his words. The other two guards had stopped laughing. They were watching now, confused. "I look different," Elena finished for him. "I am wearing a different dress? My hair is styled? I have makeup on?" She paused. "I am the same person you turned away less than an hour ago. The same person you laughed at. The same person whose invitation you threw on the ground." Derek's mouth opened and closed. No words came out. One of the other guards stepped forward. "I am sorry, miss, but I think there has been a misunderstanding." Elena turned to look at him. "A misunderstanding? Is that what you call it when your security guards judge people based on their clothes? When they refuse entry to invited guests? When they humiliate people in front of crowds?" The guard had no answer. He looked at Derek, then back at Elena. Judge Wells spoke for the first time. "Gentlemen, I suggest you open that door now. This woman is the keynote speaker for tonight's event. She is also a senior partner at Morrison & Associates, one of the sponsors of this gala, and she is my friend. So unless you would like to explain to your manager why you prevented a main speaker from entering, I suggest you step aside." Derek's hand shook as he pulled the door open. "Ma'am, I'm so sorry. I did not know. I thought..." "You thought what?" Elena asked. "You thought that someone in an old dress could not possibly be important? You thought that someone with worn shoes could not possibly belong here?" She stepped closer to him. "Do you do this often? Do you judge everyone who comes to this door by their appearance?" I am just doing my job," Derek said weakly. "Your job is to check invitations and keep the guests safe," Elena said. "Your job is not to decide who belongs and who does not based on how much their clothing costs. Your job is not to humiliate people." "I am sorry," Derek whispered. He looked like he might be sick. Elena held his gaze for another moment. Then she walked past him through the open door. Judge Wells followed. Behind them, Elena heard one of the guards say to Derek, "You really messed up this time, man." Inside, the hotel entrance was beautiful. More marble floors, more gold fixtures, more flowers. A few people stood in the space, talking and holding wine glasses. They turned to look as Elena and Judge Wells walked past. Elena kept her head high and kept walking. They reached the doors to the ballroom. A young man in a hotel uniform stood there with a tablet. "Good evening. May I have your names, please?" "Judge Catherine Wells and Elena Torres," Judge Wells said. The young man checked his tablet. His eyes went wide. "Ms. Torres!" "We have been looking everywhere for you. Please come in, come in." Ms. Monroe has been very worried. He opened the double doors. Music and light and warmth poured out. Elena took one more deep breath and then she stepped inside. The ballroom was magnificent. The ceiling was high and decorated with 3 huge crystal chandeliers. The lights were dimmed, making everything glow soft and golden. Round tables filled the space, each covered in white cloth and decorated with tall flower arrangements. At the far end of the room was a stage with a podium and a microphone. An orchestra played soft music in the corner. There must have been 300 people in the room. They were all dressed in expensive clothes. Diamonds sparkled on women's necks and wrists. Men wore tailored suits and shiny watches. Waiters moved between tables carrying trays of wine and small appetizers. The air smelled like perfume and flowers and money. A woman came rushing over as soon as she saw them. She was in her 50s with red hair and a green dress. Her face showed relief and worry. "Judge Wells? And you must be Elena Torres. Thank goodness you are here. I have been so worried." This was Patricia Monroe, the event coordinator. Elena remembered her voice from their phone calls. "Hello, Patricia," Judge Wells said smoothly. "I apologize for our delayed arrival. There was an unexpected situation that needed to be handled. As long as you are here now, that is all that matters." Patricia took Elena's hands. "Ms. Torres, it is such an honor to finally meet you. We have heard wonderful things about your work. Everyone is so excited for your speech tonight." Elena smiled. It felt strange to smile, but she did it anyway. "Thank you for inviting me. This is a beautiful event." "Let me show you to your table," Patricia said. "You are at the head table with the other sponsors and speakers. Dinner is being served now and you will speak after dessert. Does that work for you?" "That is perfect," Elena said. Patricia led them through the room. As they walked, Elena saw the faces turning to look at her. She saw curiosity. She saw admiration. She saw respect. Some people whispered to each other, probably asking who she was. A few people nodded hello as she passed, and then Elena saw them. The women who had been standing outside, the ones who had recorded her rejection on their phones, the ones who had whispered that security should handle it faster. They sat at a table near the center of the room, holding wine glasses and laughing with each other. One of them looked up as Elena walked past. Their eyes met. Elena saw the exact moment when recognition hit. The woman's face went pale. Her laugh died. Her wine glass froze halfway to her lips. She nudged her friend and pointed with her eyes. The friend looked up and had the same reaction. Elena did not say anything. She did not need to. She just kept walking with her head high. Let them wonder. Let them worry. Let them realize what they had done. Patricia brought them to the head table at the front of the room. It was elevated slightly on a platform so everyone could see. There were name cards at each seat. Elena found hers between Judge Wells and a man she did not know. As she sat down, James came rushing over from another table. His face was tight with controlled anger. "Elena, are you okay? I have been going crazy waiting for you." "I am okay," Elena said. She squeezed his hand. "Thank you for calling Judge Wells." "Of course." James looked at her carefully. "You look amazing, but are you sure you are okay? We can still leave if you want. I can tell Patricia you are not feeling well." "No," Elena said firmly. "I am staying. I am giving my speech, and I am going to make sure what happened tonight never happens to anyone else." James nodded slowly. "Okay, then I am here for whatever you need." Patricia returned with a waiter carrying plates of food. "I hope you do not mind, but we already started the first course. I will have them bring yours right away." "That is fine," Elena said. She looked around the room as her food was placed in front of her. The people, the lights, the music, everything that had seemed so important an hour ago. Everything that she had been rejected from. And now she was here, sitting at the head table, about to give the main speech of the evening. But she was not here because of the dress she wore. She was not here because Judge Wells had helped her. She was here because Patricia Monroe had invited her weeks ago. She was here because of the work she had done. She was here because she deserved to be. Derek had not taken that away from her. The laughing guards had not taken that away from her. Patricia spoke into the microphone with practiced ease. "Tonight we are gathered for a very special cause. The Legal Aid Fund provides free legal services to people who cannot afford lawyers. It helps families facing eviction, workers dealing with unfair treatment, and individuals navigating complex legal systems without any support. This fund changes lives. It gives voice to people who are often not heard. The room was quiet. People listened. Some nodded in agreement. This year we have raised over $2 million for the fund, Patricia continued. The room broke into applause, but we could not have done this without the generous support of our sponsors. Law firms like Morrison and Associates, community leaders like Judge Catherine Wells, and dedicated individuals who believe in justice for all. Elena felt her palms get sweaty. She wiped them on her napkin under the table. Judge Wells reached over and squeezed her hand quickly. A silent message of support. And now I would like to introduce our keynote speaker for this evening, Patricia said. She is a senior partner at Morrison and Associates. She specializes in employment law and civil rights cases. In just 10 years, she has won over 50 major cases for workers and families who had nowhere else to turn. She grew up in difficult circumstances and worked her way through law school while holding 2 jobs. She represents the very spirit of what our legal aid fund stands for. Please join me in welcoming Elena Torres. The room erupted in applause. People stood from their seats. Elena stood slowly and walked to the stage. The lights were bright. She could see hundreds of faces looking up at her. Her heart pounded in her chest so hard she thought everyone might hear it. She reached the microphone and adjusted it to her height. She looked out at the crowd. She saw Judge Wells smiling at her. She saw James giving her a thumbs up. She saw Patricia looking relieved and happy. She also saw the women who had recorded her. She saw other faces she recognized from outside. They all looked curious. Some looked uncomfortable. Elena cleared her throat. Good evening. Thank you for that wonderful introduction, Patricia, and thank you all for being here tonight. Her voice came out stronger than she expected. Good. I have to be honest with you, Elena continued. I have given speeches before. I have argued cases in front of judges and juries. I have stood in courtrooms and fought for my clients. But tonight feels different. Tonight feels very personal. The room was completely silent now. People leaned forward in their chairs. I want to tell you a story, Elena said. It is a story about a young woman. Let me call her Maria. Maria grew up poor. Her parents worked 3 jobs between them, but there was never quite enough money. Maria wore secondhand clothes. She ate cheap food. She studied by candlelight when the electricity was turned off. But she dreamed of being a lawyer. She dreamed of helping people like her parents. People who worked hard but never seemed to get ahead. People who faced injustice but had no one to fight for them. Elena paused. She took a sip of water. The ice clinked in the glass and the sound seemed very loud in the quiet room. Maria worked hard, Elena continued. She got scholarships. She took out loans. She worked night shifts at restaurants and weekends at grocery stores. She studied every free moment she had. And finally, after years and years, she became a lawyer. She passed the bar exam. She got hired at a good firm. She started winning cases. She started helping people. She started making a difference. People in the audience nodded. Some smiled. This was an inspiring story. This was what they came to hear. But here's the thing about Maria, Elena said. Her voice changed slightly. It got quieter, more serious. No matter how much she accomplished, no matter how many cases she won, no matter how much she proved herself, there were still people who looked at her and saw only that poor girl in second-hand clothes. There were still people who judged her by her appearance instead of her abilities. There were still people who decided she did not belong before she even opened her mouth. The room shifted. People looked uncomfortable now. They sensed this was going somewhere unexpected. Tonight I experienced this firsthand, Elena said. She let the words hang in the air. When I arrived at this hotel an hour and a half ago, I was turned away at the door. The security guard looked at my dress, looked at my shoes, and decided my invitation must be fake. He refused to check the guest list. He refused to call the event coordinator. He laughed at me. His colleagues laughed at me. And many of you, some of you sitting in this room right now, watched it happen. Some of you recorded it on your phones. Gasps filled the room. People whispered to each other. Heads turned, looking around to see who had been outside. Patricia's hand flew to her mouth. Judge Wells sat very still, watching Elena with pride. I stood there in my old dress and borrowed shoes, and I was humiliated, Elena said. Her voice did not waver. I walked away and sat on a bench 2 blocks from here, and I cried. I cried because I had worked so hard to get to this moment, and it had been taken from me in seconds by someone who knew nothing about me. Someone who judged an entire person based on their clothing. The silence in the room was complete. You could have heard a pin drop. But then something happened, Elena continued. A friend called. My mentor came to find me. They reminded me of something I had forgotten in that moment of shame. They reminded me that my worth is not determined by how other people see me. My worth is not determined by how much my dress costs or whether my shoes are new or old. My worth is determined by my actions, my character, and my contributions to the world. Elena looked around the room. She looked at faces one by one. Some people had tears in their eyes. Some looked ashamed. Some looked angry on her behalf. I want to be clear about something, Elena said. I am not telling you this story to make you feel sorry for me. I am fine. I am standing here and I am fine. I am telling you this story because I am probably not the first person this has happened to. And unless something changes, I will not be the last. Patricia was crying now. She wiped tears from her face and looked horrified. How many talented people have been turned away from opportunities because of how they look? Elena asked. How many brilliant minds have been dismissed because they could not afford expensive clothes? How many voices have been silenced because someone at a door decided they did not belong? She paused and let the question sink in. The legal aid fund that we are supporting tonight exists because everyone deserves access to justice. Elena continued. Everyone deserves to be heard. Everyone deserves dignity and respect, regardless of their income or background. But how can we claim to support these values inside this ballroom while ignoring them at our own doors? Judge Wells began to clap. Slowly at first, then louder. James joined her. Then more people. Soon the entire room was applauding. Elena held up her hand and the applause died down. I am not here to shame anyone, Elena said. Shame does not create change. But awareness does. Action does. Tonight I'm making a pledge. I am donating $500,000 to the legal aid fund. The room exploded in applause. People stood and clapped. Elena waited for them to sit down again. But I am also making a different kind of donation, Elena said. I am going to fund a training program for hotel staff, security personnel, and event workers. A program about unconscious bias. A program about treating every single person with dignity and respect, no matter what they are wearing or how they arrived. A program that ensures what happened to me tonight does not happen to anyone else. More applause. Patricia was nodding eagerly, tears still streaming down her face. Because here is what I learned tonight, Elena said. She was coming to the end now. Dignity is not something that can be given or taken away by other people. Dignity is inherent. It belongs to everyone. The janitor has the same dignity as the CEO. The person in worn shoes has the same dignity as the person in designer heels. And until we truly believe that, until we truly live that, all our charity and all our good intentions will ring hollow. Elena looked at Judge Wells, who was openly crying now. She looked at James, who was beaming with pride. She looked at Patricia, who mouthed the words, "Thank you." So tonight, as we celebrate what we have accomplished, let us also commit to doing better, Elena concluded. Let us commit to seeing people, really seeing them beyond their appearance. Let us commit to giving everyone the respect and dignity they deserve. And let us commit to building a world where nobody has to prove their worth before they are treated like a human being. Elena stepped back from the microphone. Thank you, the room erupted. Everyone stood. The applause was deafening. People were crying, clapping, shouting their approval. Patricia rushed onto the stage and hugged Elena tightly. Judge Wells came up and put her arm around Elena's shoulders. James was wiping tears from his own eyes. Elena stood there and let it wash over her. All the noise, all the emotion, all the support. She had turned her worst moment into something powerful. She had taken pain and created purpose. As the applause continued, Elena looked out into the crowd and found the women who had recorded her. They were not clapping. They sat very still, looking down at their laps, their faces red with shame. Elena did not feel anger toward them. She felt something closer to sadness that they had chosen cruelty over kindness. Patricia led Elena and Judge Wells down a quiet hallway away from the ballroom noise. The sounds of music and conversation faded behind them. They stopped at a door marked Windsor Conference Room. Patricia opened it and gestured for them to enter. The room was small but elegant. A polished wooden table sat in the center with leather chairs around it. Soft lighting came from lamps in the corners. A painting of the city hung on one wall. It was the kind of room used for private business meetings. The manager is bringing him now, Patricia said. She looked nervous. Are you absolutely sure about this, Elena? We can handle this without you having to face him again. I am sure, Elena said. She sat in one of the chairs and folded her hands on the table. This is important. Judge Wells sat beside her. If at any point you want to stop, just say the word. They waited. Elena felt surprisingly calm. The anger she had felt earlier had transformed into something else. Something clearer and more focused. She knew what she wanted to say. The door opened. A man in his 50s wearing a dark suit entered first. He had gray hair and a stressed expression. Ms. Torres, I am Robert Chen, the general manager of this hotel. I cannot begin to express how deeply sorry I am about what happened this evening. Elena nodded. Thank you for meeting with me, Mr. Chen. Of course. Anything you need. He stepped aside. I have brought Derek as you requested. Derek walked in slowly. He looked like he wanted to be anywhere else in the world. His face was pale. His confident posture from earlier was gone. He would not meet Elena's eyes. He stood by the door like he might run. Please sit down, Derek, Elena said. Her voice was calm. Derek hesitated, then moved to a chair across the table from Elena. He sat on the edge of it, his hands clasped tightly in his lap. Mr. Chen closed the door and stood against the wall. Do you know why I asked to speak with you? Elena asked Derek. Derek's voice came out rough. To tell me I am fired, I guess. Actually, no, Elena said. Mr. Chen, Patricia, do you mind if Derek and I speak alone for a few minutes? Judge Wells can stay. Patricia and Mr. Chen exchanged glances. Are you certain? Mr. Chen asked. I am certain, Elena replied. We will be right outside if you need anything, Patricia said. She and Mr. Chen left the room, closing the door behind them. Now it was just Elena, Judge Wells, and Derek. The silence stretched out. Derek still would not look up. Derek, Elena said gently. Look at me, please. Slowly, Derek raised his eyes. Elena saw shame there, and fear, and confusion. I want to ask you some questions, Elena said, and I want you to answer honestly. Can you do that? Derek nodded. Why did you turn me away tonight? Derek swallowed hard. I thought your invitation was fake. Why did you think that? Because... Derek trailed off. Because of how I looked, Elena finished for him. Because my dress was old and my shoes were worn. Is that right? Derek looked down again. Yes. Have you done this before? Turned people away based on how they look? Derek was quiet for a long moment. Then he nodded. Yes, a few times. Why? My job is to keep out people who do not belong, Derek said. People who try to sneak into fancy events. People who lie about invitations. It happens a lot. I understand that is part of your job, Elena said. But how do you decide who does not belong? Derek had no answer for that. Let me tell you what I think, Elena continued. I think you have been taught, maybe not directly but through experience and society, that certain types of people belong in certain places. Rich-looking people belong at fancy events. Poor-looking people do not. Well-dressed people are probably telling the truth. Poorly dressed people are probably lying. Am I right? Derek nodded slowly. I never really thought about it that way, but yeah. I guess so. Do you know what that is called? Judge Wells spoke for the first time. It is called unconscious bias. It means you make judgments about people without even realizing you are doing it, based on how they look, how they dress, how they talk. Everyone has these biases. Everyone. The question is whether we recognize them and work to change them. Derek looked at Judge Wells, then back at Elena. I really am sorry. I did not mean to hurt you. I believe you, Elena said, and she meant it. I do not think you are a bad person, Derek. I think you made a mistake based on assumptions you did not even know you had. But here is the problem. Your mistake cost me. It humiliated me, it hurt me. And I'm sitting here now. But what about all the other people you have turned away who did not have a mentor to call? Who did not have nice clothes to change into? Who just went home and gave up? Derek's eyes filled with tears. I never thought about that. I know, Elena said. Most people do not. But those decisions have consequences. Real consequences for real people. I would take it back if I could, Derek said. His voice broke. I would take it all back. I know you would. But you cannot. What is done. Elena leaned forward. So the question now is, what are you going to do differently going forward? Derek wiped his eyes. I do not know. Tell me what to do and I will do it. Elena thought for a moment. Here's what I think should happen. Mr. Chen is probably going to fire you. That is his right. You made a serious mistake that reflected badly on his hotel, but I'm going to ask him not to. Derek looked up in surprise. What, why? Because firing you accomplishes nothing, Elena said. It makes the hotel feel better. It makes me look like I got justice, but it does not change the system. It does not stop this from happening again with the next security guard. It does not help you learn and grow. I do not understand, Derek said. Judge Wells smiled. Elena is offering you a second chance. But it comes with conditions. What conditions? Derek asked. First, you will participate in the training program I mentioned in my speech, Elena said. You will learn about unconscious bias. You will learn about treating all people with dignity. You will learn to catch yourself before you make assumptions. Derek nodded eagerly. Yes, I will do that. Second, you will help train other security staff at this hotel and other hotels in the city. You will share your story. You will tell them what happened tonight and what you learned. You will help make sure other guards do not make the same mistakes you made. Okay, Derek said. I can do that. And third, Elena said, her voice becoming more serious, you will check yourself every single day. Every time you interact with someone, you will ask yourself, am I judging this person by their appearance? Am I making assumptions? Am I treating them with the respect and dignity they deserve? This is not a one-time lesson, Derek. This is a lifetime commitment. Derek looked overwhelmed, but he nodded. I understand, and I will do all of that. I promise. Good, Elena stood up. Then I am going to recommend to Mr. Chen that you keep your job. But you need to understand something. This is not forgiveness, not yet. Forgiveness has to be earned over time through changed behavior. This is simply an opportunity. What you do with that opportunity is up to you. Derek stood as well. He looked at Elena with something like awe. Why are you being so kind to me? After what I did to you? Elena thought about this question. She thought about her own journey. All the times she had been judged and dismissed. All the times she had wanted revenge or validation. All the times anger had burned in her chest. Because I have learned something through the years, Elena said slowly. Punishing people feels good in the moment, but it rarely creates real change. People do not learn from punishment. They learn from understanding. They learn from seeing the human impact of their actions. They learn from being given the chance to do better. She walked around the table to stand closer to Derek. You saw me as less than human tonight. You saw me as a problem to be removed. But I am a real person with real feelings. I have a story and a history and dreams and pain. Just like you do. Just like everyone does. If I can help you see that, if I can help you see all people that way, then maybe what happened tonight will not be wasted. Derek's tears fell freely now. Thank you. Thank you so much. I will not let you down. Do not thank me yet, Elena said. Thank me in a year when you have followed through on everything. Thank me when you stop the next security guard from making the same mistake. Thank me when you change someone else's thinking. That is when this moment will matter. Judge Wells stood and put her hand on Elena's shoulder. We should get back to the gala. People will wonder where you went. Elena nodded. She pulled a business card from her small purse and handed it to Derek. This has my email. In 2 weeks, I will send you information about the training program. I expect you to sign up immediately. Understood? Understood, Derek said. He took the card like it was something precious. Elena walked to the door and opened it. Mr. Chen and Patricia were waiting in the hall, both looking anxious. Mr. Chen, could we speak privately? Elena asked. Of course. He followed her a few steps down the hall. Patricia stayed by the door. I know you were planning to fire Derek, Elena said quietly. Yes, Mr. Chen confirmed. What he did was unacceptable. It cannot be tolerated. I agree it was unacceptable, Elena said. But I am asking you not to fire him. Instead, I am asking you to give him a second chance. With conditions, Mr. Chen looked surprised. Miss Torres, you are very generous. But the reputation of my hotel will be improved, not damaged, by showing that you believe in education and growth over punishment. Elena finished. Derek has agreed to participate in extensive training. He has agreed to help train other staff members. He has agreed to change. If he fails to follow through, then you fire him. But at least give him the chance to do better. Mr. Chen studied her face. You really believe people can change? I have to believe that, Elena said. Because if I do not, then what is the point of any of this? What is the point of the legal aid fund if we do not believe people can learn and grow? What is the point of second chances if we do not give them? Mr. Chen was quiet for a moment. Then he nodded. Okay, I will give him one chance. But if there is one more complaint, one more incident, he is gone. That is fair, Elena said. Thank you. They walked back to the conference room. Derek was still standing there looking scared and hopeful at the same time. Derek, Mr. Chen said, Ms. Torres has advocated for you. Against my better judgment, I am going to give you another chance. But you will participate in every training session Ms. Torres arranges. You will help develop a new protocol for how security handles guests, and you will be on probation for 6 months. One mistake and you are done. Do you understand? Derek looked like he might cry again. Yes, sir. I understand. Thank you. Thank you both. Do not thank us, Mr. Chen said firmly. Just do better. Elena, Judge Wells, and Patricia left the room and walked back toward the ballroom. Patricia was shaking her head in amazement. That was extraordinary, Patricia said. The way you handled that. Most people would have demanded he be fired immediately. They would have wanted revenge. Revenge is easy, Elena said. Change is hard. I chose the hard thing. They reached the entrance to the ballroom. Elena could hear music playing again. The gala was continuing. Life was moving forward. Are you ready to go back in? Judge Wells asked. Elena took a deep breath. Yes, but I think the most important part of tonight is over. Everything else is just celebration. She walked back into the ballroom with her head held high, knowing that she had not just survived her worst moment, she had transformed it into something that might actually change the world, one person at a time. The rest of the gala passed in a blur of conversations and handshakes. People kept approaching Elena, wanting to talk about her speech, asking about the training program, sharing their own stories of being judged unfairly. She smiled and listened and thanked them all. But part of her mind was somewhere else, thinking about Derek and what she had just done. Around 11 o'clock, the crowd began to thin. The orchestra played softer music now. Some guests were leaving, calling for their cars, saying goodbye to friends. Elena stood near the windows overlooking the city, watching the lights twinkle below. Patricia approached one more time. She looked exhausted but happy. Elena, I just wanted to say goodnight. And to thank you again. Tonight was supposed to be a standard charity event, but you turned it into something meaningful, something people will remember. I hope they remember the right parts, Elena said. Not just my story, but the message behind it. They will, Patricia assured her. I have already had 5 companies ask about bringing your training program to their businesses. And the donations we received tonight exceeded our goals by 40%. People were inspired, Elena smiled. That is good news. Patricia hesitated, then spoke again. Can I ask you something? Why did you really ask for Derek not to be fired? Most people in your position would want justice. They would want to see him punished. Elena looked out the window at the city. Can I tell you something I have never told anyone? Not even Judge Wells? Of course, Patricia said. 15 years ago, when I was 19 years old and still in college, I came to this hotel, Elena began. I applied for a job as a server. I needed money desperately. I was about to drop out of school because I could not afford tuition. I wore the best clothes I had, which were not very good. I filled out the application carefully. I waited for my interview. Patricia listened quietly. The manager who interviewed me looked at my application, looked at me and said I did not have the right look for their establishment. Elena continued. She said their servers needed to present a certain image. She said maybe I could try the diner down the street instead. She was not mean about it. She was almost kind. But the message was clear. I was not good enough for this hotel. Oh, Elena, Patricia whispered. I left here feeling worthless, Elena said. I felt like no matter how hard I worked, no matter how smart I was, my background would always hold me back. I seriously considered giving up. Why keep trying if people would always judge me by my appearance? But you did not give up, Patricia said. No, I got angry instead. I used that anger as fuel. I worked 3 jobs that semester. I ate 1 meal a day. I slept 4 hours a night. I studied every free moment. I was determined to prove that manager wrong. To prove everyone wrong who had ever dismissed me. Elena turned to face Patricia, and I did prove them wrong. I graduated top of my class. I got into law school. I became a lawyer. I became successful. I showed them all. That is an incredible story, Patricia said. But here's what I realized tonight, Elena said. All those years I thought I was fighting to prove myself. I thought success meant showing people they were wrong about me. But that is not really success, is it? That is just letting their judgment control my life in a different way. Real success is not about proving anything to anyone. Real success is being secure enough in yourself that other people's opinions do not define you. Patricia nodded slowly, understanding dawning on her face. When Derek turned me away tonight, my first instinct was that old anger, Elena continued. That need to prove myself, to show him he was wrong, to make him pay for judging me. But then I realized something. If I let anger drive my actions, I become just as small-minded as the people who judged me. Revenge does not heal anything. It just spreads the hurt around. So you chose grace instead, Patricia said. I chose to try something different, Elena corrected. I chose to see Derek as a whole person who made a mistake, not as an enemy who needed to be defeated. I chose to believe that people can learn and change, because if I do not believe that, then what was the point of everything I have been through? What was the point of all my own growth and learning? Patricia had tears in her eyes now. I wish more people thought the way you do. I am not special, Elena said. I just got tired of carrying anger around. It is heavy, and it does not actually help anyone. They stood in silence for a moment, looking out at the city together. Can I tell you something else? Elena asked. The real twist to this whole story? Please, Patricia said. That manager who rejected me 15 years ago. I looked her up a few years back, just out of curiosity. She does not work here anymore. She left the hotel industry entirely. She teaches now. Elementary school in a low-income neighborhood. Elena smiled. People change. Situations change. The person who hurts you at one point in your life might become completely different later. Holding on to anger about who they were does not account for who they might become. That is profound, Patricia said. It is also practical, Elena replied. Derek might continue being judgmental. He might not follow through on the training. He might not change at all. But at least now he has the chance. At least now he has seen a different way. And that is all I can do. Plant seeds and hope some of them grow. James walked over carrying Elena's coat. Sorry to interrupt, but I think we should probably head out soon. It is getting late. You are right, Elena said. She turned to Patricia. Thank you for inviting me tonight. Despite everything that happened, I am glad I came. I am glad too, Patricia said. And I am so sorry about how the evening started. It started badly, Elena agreed. But I think it ended well. Sometimes the journey matters more than the beginning or the ending. Patricia hugged her. You are remarkable. Please stay in touch. I want to help with your training program in any way I can. I will, Elena promised. Judge Wells joined them, also ready to leave. Elena, my driver is waiting downstairs. Can I give you a ride home? That would be wonderful, Elena said. The three of them walked toward the exit. As they passed through the ballroom doors, Elena saw Derek standing at his post. He looked different now, less arrogant, more thoughtful. When he saw Elena, he stood straighter and nodded respectfully. She nodded back. They took the elevator down to the lobby. It was quieter now, with only a few hotel staff cleaning up from the evening. Their footsteps echoed on the marble floor as they walked toward the main entrance. A different security guard held the door open for them. Good night, ladies. Thank you for coming. Thank you, Elena said. Outside, the night air was cool and fresh. Judge Wells's car was waiting at the curb, a sleek black sedan. The driver opened the back door for them. Before getting in, Elena turned and looked back at the hotel. The lights still glowed golden. The building looked elegant and expensive and exclusive. But Elena knew now that buildings were just buildings. It was the people inside them that mattered. Their choices, their actions, their willingness to see beyond appearances and treat each other with dignity. Are you okay? Judge Wells asked gently. Elena smiled. I am more than okay. I am grateful. Grateful? After everything that happened tonight? Yes, Elena said. Because tonight I learned something important. I learned that I do not need anyone's approval or validation anymore. I know who I am. I know my worth. And that cannot be taken away by a security guard or anyone else. They got into the car. As they drove through the city streets, Judge Wells spoke again. You know, when I got James's call tonight, I was furious. I wanted to come down there and tear that hotel apart. I wanted to make sure everyone involved paid for what they did to you. What changed your mind? Elena asked. You did, Judge Wells said. Watching you tonight, seeing how you handled everything with such grace and wisdom, reminded me that anger is not always the answer. Sometimes compassion is stronger. Sometimes forgiveness is braver. You taught me that tonight. Elena looked out the window at the city passing by. Someone very wise once told me that real power is not about controlling others. It is about controlling yourself, about choosing your response rather than just reacting. That does sound wise, Judge Wells said. Who told you that? Elena turned and smiled at her mentor. You did. About 5 years ago when I lost a case and wanted to give up. You told me that losing with grace is more important than winning with arrogance. Tonight I finally understood what you meant. Judge Wells laughed softly. I am glad one of us remembers my own advice. They drove in comfortable silence for a while. Eventually they reached Elena's apartment building, a modest place in a nice neighborhood. The driver pulled up to the curb. Thank you for tonight, Elena said. For coming to get me. For supporting me. For believing in me. Always, Judge Wells said. She held Elena's hand for a moment. You know, I have mentored a lot of young lawyers over the years. But you, Elena, you have taught me just as much as I have taught you. Maybe more. Thank you for that. Elena hugged her mentor. Get home safely, you too. And Elena, what you did tonight, choosing grace over revenge, education over punishment, hope over anger, that is the kind of leadership this world needs more of. Be proud of yourself. I will try, Elena said. She got out of the car and walked to her building. As she climbed the stairs to her apartment, Elena felt lighter than she had in years. She was not carrying anger anymore. She was not carrying the need to prove herself. She was just carrying the knowledge that she was enough, exactly as she was. Inside her small apartment, Elena changed out of the beautiful blue dress and hung it carefully. She would return it to Judge Wells tomorrow. She washed her face and took off the elegant makeup. She looked at herself in the bathroom mirror. Just Elena again, plain and simple. But she smiled at her reflection because she knew something now that she had not known before. Her worth had never been about the dress or the makeup or what other people thought. It had always been inside her, in her actions, in her choices, in her character. Derek had tried to take that away tonight, but he could not, because it was not his to take. Elena got into bed and turned off the light. Tomorrow she would start working on the training program. She would reach out to other hotels and businesses. She would try to create real change. But tonight she would just rest. She would let herself be proud of how she had handled everything. She would let herself feel grateful for the people who supported her. She would let herself just be. As she drifted off to sleep, Elena thought about that 19-year-old girl who had been rejected from this same hotel so many years ago. That girl who had felt worthless and small. That girl who had almost given up on her dreams. If Elena could go back and talk to her, she would tell her not to be afraid. She would tell her that rejection does not define you. She would tell her that other people's judgments say more about them than about you. She would tell her to keep going, keep working, keep believing in herself. Because one day she would walk back into that hotel, not to prove anything to anyone, but simply to share what she had learned along the way. And that, Elena thought, as sleep took her, was the real twist. The story was never about revenge or validation or proving herself. It was about growing into someone who did not need any of those things. It was about becoming secure enough in her own worth that other people's opinions could not shake her. It was about choosing grace in the face of cruelty and hope in the face of judgment. The girl who had been rejected 15 years ago had become the woman who offered second chances. And that transformation, more than any speech or donation or moment of triumph, was what mattered most. Elena smiled in the darkness and let herself rest, knowing that tomorrow she would wake up and continue the work of making the world a little bit kinder, one choice at a time.